my screen. Oh, I see I don't have permission to share. Is there a way?
Are you able
so that I could
now?
share the graphic recording? Let me see. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so this is an overview of what I was capturing yesterday. So for those who may not know what this is, it's called a graphic recording. So what I was doing during the session was listening in to what everybody had to share from each session. And then I take a record of it using illustration as well as simple note-taking of key points and merging the two to create an artwork, but an artwork that's educative and communicates about what the session mainly was revolving around. So from this section here, day one, we started with the civic engagement conversation with a focus on youth, some of the different statistics that were covered and key points like why we don't have a youth president, despite being 75% of the Kenyan population. Then moving on to key issues that were raised as to why youth are not as involved as they should be in the current governance and civic procedures. Then moving on to the opportunities that are present for youth to cultivate or to use in order to advance themselves and the youth agenda in the development of our country. And then some of the challenges to us, so different statistics again that were raised and key statements and points. And then moving on to the talk by Yako about youth coming from a less entrenched background. So we're more likely to push for change, and also giving some background information about the issues faced in South Africa that may be similar to those faced here. Then we moved on to the talk by Caroline about the women and challenges women face with regards to leadership, and the youth talk as well. So everything was compressed and put together in this image here, and then also the breakout room chats. So some of the key points that were captured and then placed here. So I'm still working on it. As you can see, I'm still coloring. But once it's complete, of course, it will be shared with all of you who've been present. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mijide. Anyone with any question or something you feel you would love to highlight about yesterday?
Yes, maybe just to reiterate that I think I love the graphics so much, and thanks Mijide for just showing us that particular tool you're using. I'm honestly willing to just learn on how to put all that together because it's really eye-catching, and I'm proud of you having put that together. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other person by show of hands? So I'm going to ask our key facilitators for today, at least when I call out their names, they can put on their video so that you get to meet them before we start the session. So please allow me to introduce Dr. Roslyn, to introduce Miss Roslyn Omondi from the Horn of Institute. Please, Miss Roslyn, you can just put on your video so that the participants can see you.
Yes, Wakash, I'm here. My video is on.
Great, thank you and welcome. And next, let me introduce Dr. Violet Mbath. Are you here, Violet? Please put on your video and say hi. You're on mute, Violet.
Oh, sorry for that. So I'm Dr. Violet Mbiti. So there is an error with the spelling, but it's Dr. Violet Mbiti. Pleasure to be here.
Great, thank you very much, Dr. Violet Mbiti. And then last but not least, I'm going to introduce Salome Nthenya, who will be our facilitator also for today. Salome, are you here? Salome? Okay, maybe Salome will be joining later, so we'll catch up with her. So I want to now, last but not least, introduce our two moderators, Fabrice Mushiga. Fabrice, you can say hi. I can see your video is on.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you and good to be engaging with you today.
Yes, hello, Senior. How are you?
Okay, thank you very much. Fabrice and I have worked together before. We'll share that story for another time. And then Julian Kio, are you here today? Let's see your face, say hi. Okay, I'll assume maybe she's still joining, she'll be with us. So I want to allow Fabrice to introduce the session and allow the next speaker to take on. Fabrice, please.
Okay, that's really wonderful. And thank you, Paris, for this, catch up on yesterday. It's nice to connect in between the session. And I know you guys learned a lot yesterday. And for today, it's a bit more loaded. So what I will ask you for a moment is just to fasten your seatbelt and get ready. So we give you a second to fasten the seatbelt. Are you ready to start for today? And so today it's a very different day. Today we have our very own Rosalind Omondi with us, who will really be engaging us on issues regarding, policies and communication. And Rosalind has been introduced, and I'll be asking Rosalind in this communication, in this session, how communication can be done. What are the avenues? What are the windows that young people can explore, in the policy making, looking at the budget process? And again, welcome, Rosalind. So we have also here with us today, Dr. Violet, who is Violet Mbath. And yeah, forgive me actually if I don't get it correct. It's Violet Mbiti, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, Violet Mbiti, who is a budget expert, and will try to understand with Violet, what is the budget process like in Kenya? What is the cycle? And in this session, it will be all about knowledge sharing. And after, we'll allow times for question. And I echo the session that will come after will be much more about looking at what are the challenges within the system. So I really welcome you to pay keen attention and understand what are the loopholes, what doesn't work for young people, what are the opportunities. Yes, maybe Dr. Violet or Rosalind can make a heads up and tell you this is how it's done, but there is a challenge. But this session, ladies and gentlemen, is all about you to understand, does it really work for you? Let me start with you, Dr. Violet, and what we'll do, we'll just give you around 10 minutes. And in the 10 minutes, we want you to take us through, understanding the budget process in Kenya. What is the cycle of the budget in Kenya? What are the actors involved? What are the tools that are being used? And, how young leaders can engage in this process. Dr. Violet, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, Dr. Violet, I'll give you the floor. But before that, ladies and gentlemen, if you can use this opportunity, if there is any comment you have in the chat, any information, please make use of the chat and we'll be there to assist you. Dr. Violet, the floor is yours.
Okay. I'm sharing my screen. So just a minute, I'm sharing my screen. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here to take you through the budget making process in Kenya, both at the national and the county level. So let me just expand the size so that, so to start off, what you're going to do is we are going to carry out mapping of the county budget process and key budget documents. So first of all, what you're going to do is to review the stages of the budget process and the key actors involved during each stage. And thereafter, you're going to discuss key budget documents and knowing when to expect them. And lastly, I'm going to take you just a little bit about the key definitions with regard to matters budget, because public finance is wide, and 10 minutes to cover all that. We'll try, but that is how it is. So I'd like to ask the participants, kindly share with me in the chat box. Does anyone know any budget stage? There are 4. Kindly mention any budget stage that you're aware of. Okay, so I'm looking at the chat to see the response. I'm seeing formulation. What else? Yeah, so basically, there are 4 stages of the budget making process. So we have formulation. Oh, even I'm seeing even responses with regard even to the key actors involved. Great, great, great. So let's get right into it. So with regard now to the budget making process, there are 4 stages, namely the formulation stage, the approval stage, the implementation stage, and also the audit stage, which is all about reviewing what has been done. Okay, so let me zoom in here. So as you can see here, can you see clearly? Just a show of hands, can you see clearly, or should I zoom further? Okay, maybe. Okay, so I'm seeing that you're seeing clearly. So there are 4 stages of the budget making process. So the formulation. So the person in charge of formulation is the executive, okay? And through the national ministry and county departments. Oh, good. You can see from your end, yeah. So with regard to formulation, the person in charge with regard to formulation is the executive through national ministry and county departments who steer this process. So at the county level, you see, during the formulation stage, that is where you find these particular documents, the annual development plan, the county integrated development plan, which is now taking place in all the counties in Kenya. We also have the county budget review and output paper, we have the county fiscal strategy paper and the county budget proposal or national budget proposal. So this is the thing. You will find that the annual development plan, or even let me take you back a little bit. In Kenya, the financial year is from July to June of the following year. So you see, like right now, the financial year that we are in right now, it is the financial year 2022 to 2023. And the budget priorities that have been incorporated in this financial year were developed last year. And that is why you find that this budget making process, the first document that you find there, they also have the budget circular. So the budget circular is prepared even by the county treasury, as well as the national treasury at the national level. And it is shared to the different ministries or the different departments so that they can align themselves very well and ensure that even there are dates for public participation. So if you are not aware of the date of public participation, kindly go to your county website or even the county assembly website. Just look for a budget circular. It's called budget circular, and you will find dates for public participation in your various counties. The essence of this budget circular is, do you know that the county and also at the national government, it is prohibited by law for them not to initiate a project or initiative without the input of the citizen, and you are the citizen. So that is why the Public Finance Management Act, it is a legal framework that the counties and even the national level, they have to adhere to. And one of it says is that public should share their view. There is also the Article 35 of the Constitution of Kenya, which states that it is your right as a citizen to get information from your county with regard to the projects that they are doing. And you see, the county usually highlights what they want to do in the annual development plan. So the annual development plan is a one-year plan of a county where they say that this is what we are going to do for the 1 year. The county integrated development plan, it is a plan for the county for the next 5 years. So for now, you find that they have a plan for the next 5 years till the next election, okay? So it is a 5-year plan. And that 5-year plan, when it is divided into 1-year plan, it becomes now the annual development plan. So for like right now, the counties are preparing the annual development, the county integrated development plan. And so that by so doing, you will find that if you look at the CIDP, you will see that the plans that they have said that they are going to do for year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One thing that you should note, if you have not attended a public participation in your respective county and shared your views, maybe for the water sector or whatever sector that it is there, and it is not incorporated in the county integrated development plan, it will be tricky for them to allocate financial resources there. And that is why it is imperative for you as a citizen to participate in the ongoing county integrated development plan. You share your views. If the hospitals are insufficient in your county, participate and share that you want the county government to allocate resources. And also at the national level, you also find that there are some policies that need to be amended, all right? And that is why you also need to go and also even share your views, because even at the national level, that they also have public participation. So what they do in Kenya is the Gazette. It is called Gazette. You find it in the newspapers. So most of the time you find that people share the screenshots on WhatsApp and all that. Now, so in the formulation stage, you've heard that it is initiated by the executive, both at the county and at the national. And you've heard that there is the CIDP, followed closely by the annual development plan, followed closely by the county budget review and outlook paper. The county budget review and outlook paper has 2 sections. It reviews the previous performance so that you can see what happened the previous and outlook. It is looking at the what you want to do for the next financial year. So one thing that you should note, even as I talk about CBROC, is that you will find that there are documents, budget documents, that you will find them at the formulation stage and you will find them at the audit stage. All right. So the thing is this, this is the issue. So you see, like the county budget review and outlook paper, you will find it at the formulation stage when you are looking at the outlook part of it. And the review part you will find it also, you will find it during the audit and evaluation. All right. I hope we have that, we've gotten that part clear. Now, in the outlook, you find that it's like they say that, oh, this is what we are going to do this coming year. All right. So, and that one informs now the county fiscal strategy paper. So what normally happens is that the annual development plan, when they call for public participation, it is usually called on in the month of September, all right? And then after that, now what follows closely is the county budget review and outlook paper, which happens in October, all right? Now with regard to the outlook, you find that the departments sit together and they say, oh, let us review and see. How did the health department or even the water department perform this previous year? So if they see that we had allocated 1 billion to the health sector, and they look at the budget and see, oh, these people have only used 200 million. Do you know what they're going to do? In the county fiscal strategy paper, they're going to say, let us give them 200 million. Because they say that this county is not, we are giving them money, but they're not utilizing it. That is how these decisions may work. And that is why it is imperative for you as a citizen to engage the government. Because when you don't do that, you will find that those resources are being used for other things. And then you are wondering, how come agriculture is not being prioritized in my county? Or how come employment is not being prioritized even at the national level? What is the case? It is because citizens are not following up. Now, the other thing is the approval stage. So once you have given your view in the county fiscal strategy paper, what follows closely is the county budget proposal. So the county budget proposal is now the final budget that the government has said it's going to do. And then after that, which is equivalent to the national budget, where now the MCAs pass it as well as the National Assembly, and now it goes through. Now, with regards to the approval, this is where now, once they approve the budget, which is called a County Appropriation Act at the county level and National Appropriation Act at the national level. And then now there's the third stage, which is implementation. This is where you can monitor how the county is utilizing the funds that you had advocated for. Most of the time you find that CSOs, civil society organizations, or even the citizens, they don't follow up on how the county is using those resources. And that is why it is imperative for you to go to the website and check on the on your county website to check on the county quarterly implementation reports and then the national budget implementation report. You can also go and check at the controller of budgets at the national level. They also have these reports. And then with regard to audits and evaluation, there are audit reports where you can find on the website of the Auditor General, where they are going to highlight how did they use these funds well or not. And then also the other budget document there is the county budget review and outlook paper, and at the national level, it's called the National Budget Review and Outlook paper. So I'm just rushing it because I've seen I have a few minutes left.
Exactly. It's very interesting, but little time.
I know. Next time, maybe you can allocate more time. All right. Yeah,
definitely. We will do that. Maybe you'll be winding up, but
yeah. So I think whatever you can see there, I have already highlighted it with regard now to even the key actors involved, even the timeline, as you can see. and even the role of the public with regard to it. Same case with the amendment and approval stage, and same case with the implementation and then the audit. All right. So I guess these notes are going to be shared by the organizers. So I just
yes, exactly.
Yes. So I just have 1 minute remaining. So I'd like to take you through the definitions that you usually find in the budget. So when you hear a government saying this, the budget year, this is a fiscal year, financial year, this is, as I was saying, it is a complete government budget reporting period covering 12 months from 1st July to 30th of June. And also, you also hear the government saying, oh, this is the development expenditure. When they say development or capital expenditure, that is expenditure on capital items or assets such as roads, buildings. So when you're telling the county government or the national government to construct a hospital, to construct this and that, that is development, or even to construct a road, that is development expenditure. And then you also find that also there's economic classification, which also looks at the recurrent expenditure. Recurrent is the money that, it's like, you know, the way in your house you use water every day, you use milk every day, you buy milk, you buy food, that is recurrent expenditure. So with regard to government, it is under economic classification, focusing on recurrent expenditure, personnel, like salaries and maintenance and development expenditure. And there's also, who are the members of the County Budget Economic Forum? So CBEF is the County Budget Economic Forum. That's a question that I've seen in the chat. So what normally happens is you find that, you see, like right now, different counties are setting up the County Budget Economic Forum. Now, these are the people who are going to be looking at the governments in the various counties, advising even the governor of what needs to be done. And you know, you as a citizen, it is imperative for you to also be selected. You know,
We can't hear you, Doctor.
in your county, you will find it difficult for you, for a CSO, a civil society organization, to represent it there. And that is why it is imperative for you to, as a citizen, to advocate to be a member of the County Budget Economic Forum, so that you can be advising on this budget process. And my request to the organizers, if it is possible for you maybe to organize maybe a training, like even more time, like 2 hours time for this budget, we'll be able to get right into it, so that by the end of it, they will also be fully enriched with it. So 10 minutes is little, but I hope I've tried. And
yeah.
Yes, so over to you, Fabrice.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Violet Mbiti. And I really want to thank you for covering this very important subject in less time. It's really impossible. This has been a marathon for you, and we're very grateful for that. And then this session is really about giving you a sense of what budgeting is. And it has been eloquently, summarized by Dr. Violet. And remember, while you get your question in the chat, there's one thing I want you to remember in what Dr. Violet's mentioned. If you have not participated, in the process before, it's gonna be harder for you to bring in your new concern or insight, because there is a 5-year plan already, and it's really take a process for you to come up now with the issues in your community. So her call has been, do participate. Thank you for that. And then Dr. Violet will have some few questions from the public to you. But as we move to our very own Rosalind Omondi, my question to you, Rosalind, is really about communication and policy. This is a policy process. How is Kenya empowering youth to participate in governance and in government budgeting? What are the communication channels being used? For example, people are in majority on WhatsApp. They are in TikTok. They are maybe Facebook. I mean, a new generation is going to Twitter. Where is the communication of the government going? Is it targeting the youth? what are the means we can provide, under which conditions we can have a communication that promotes a youth responsive budgeting. Can you tell us more on the communication bit and policy that's taking into account young people? Over to you, and we'll have 10 minutes. We really apologize for that. And in case you can take us through that, we'll really appreciate. And yeah, any question, post them in the chat, and after we'll have time to bring you again on the spot. Over to you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Fabrice, and good morning to everybody. I hear that I have 10 minutes. Before I carry on now, I just want to thank you, Dr. Mbiti, for the presentation that you've given us. It's been insightful. And I just like what you said. If you're not there in time, well, you need to wait 1 year or 5 years. And you also said something about policies that need to be changed or to be brought forward. So my presentation will focus a lot more on policy and communication. And now I'd like to just share my screen, if you'll allow me. Just a minute. Sorry. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So as you've heard, my name is Roslyn Omondi. I go by many tags, but what I do very well is knowledge products creation. I'm currently the Associate Director at the Center for Climate Change, Migration and Development at the Horn Institute. So I will just try to go in my 10 minutes to tell you something. Yesterday, we heard how it's important to find an entry point. So I'd like to just share my experience with you about entry points. For me, it is in research and in writing and in communication. So how I got into this space of policymaking is through that entry. I joined a research institution called the Horn Institute for Strategic Studies, also just the Horn Institute. I made my entry as a research fellow. And then with time, I became Associate Director of Research, and then now I'm the Center Director for Climate Change. The thing that I built to informed research and analytical inquiry that positively informs policy making. And you can see the people that are receiving these policies are governments, intergovernmental and non-governmental organizations. My institute focuses on 13 countries in the IGAD region or in the Greater Horn of Africa region. Sometimes we say the IGAD plus East Africa, and it covers several countries. I'm giving you a link there that you can watch a little bit more about the institute. Now, in order to contribute, I asked myself, how can I contribute? How can I do this thing called informing policies positively? So I did a bit of a small test on myself. I said, what do I have in my hands? And I read countries, and there are several issues, and I'm interested in all of those issues. I also had some knowledge. I had some skills in research, in writing, in knowledge content creation. And then I also have a personality that is analytical, is curious, is solutions oriented. That's what I had. And the communication strategy wasn't great. So what did I do? I proposed a new product called a policy brief. I'll walk you through a bit of that. And then I got a group of my researchers together, and I trained them on how to do policy briefs and other kind of formats that I will discuss with you. And then I identified the problems that needed policy action in my country and in my region and in 13 countries. And then we started to write the ethnic related violence around elections. So that's one of the areas we tackled. We saw COVID coming, and so there was questions of how are we going to handle COVID. But as COVID was being managed, we started to lose Kenyans. Kenyans were complaining about a lot of things, about masks, about curfews and everything. So there was a need to inform policymakers on how to handle that and to win back the hearts of minds of Kenyans. And then there was a policy brief on that, but there are many policy briefs that came out of that. Now, my presentation is going to talk about the policy cycle illustration and a bit of exercise, and then we'll talk about strategy, and I will conclude hopefully in the next 8 minutes. So the first question I want to just pose to all of us is, what is a policy? Feel free to use the chat to tell me, but I can give you some it's a framework, a bit like a hanger, something that you can hang other things on, ideas, recommendations, suggestions. So it's an approach that you take to address a certain issue. I'm really interested to also hear what you have to say about what a policy is, but I hope we can get more about it. Now, the policy cycle looks like this in summary. You have a problem, okay? Then you set an agenda, then you make the policy, then we talk about policy adoption and implementation. And then if there's a problem in the policy that you're trying to implement, and then you need to revise it, then you need to evaluate and do that. And then there will be, the cycle continues almost like that, but sometimes, you might set an agenda and jump into an adoption and go back and forth and back and forth. So it's not necessarily cyclic, but this is the basic way that it works. Okay, some things you'd have to think about when you're making policies, and sometimes it's called policy design or policy making. Of course, who do you want to target with that policy? Is it your governor? Is it the part we call implementation? Okay, so I want us to just think about one thing that is a problem in Kenya. This thing called road accidents, road crash. A heads up, in research and in the research and communication circle, we talk a lot about constructivism. And this is a theory that I want us to just always put at the back of our minds, whether we're doing budgets, whether we're doing policies, whether we're doing communication. It's this idea that you create your reality. You create it and you can recreate it. And so if your reality is, for example, many accidents in your county, you want to change that reality, you have to reconstruct that reality. So it's this theory called theory of constructivism. I'd encourage you to just look at it a little bit more. And so we see that in our society, problems are constructed. But that means that they also have a social aspect, they have a political aspect, they have an economic aspect, they have an environmental aspect. So problems have babies, they don't come just alone. So for example, if it's COVID had economic issues. I can't afford a mask. There was politics, there was society, there was the environment. What do we do with masks, So problems have many facets, just for your notes. Okay, now let's look at this thing called traffic accidents in Kenya. And one of the things I want us to think about, are our problems natural or are they man-made? Just think about those two pictures for now. Okay, and if they're created by us or not. Now, if we look at the statistics, and in research and communication, we talk also a lot about statistics, evidence-based. We look at a lot of traffic accidents in Kenya. The number was 15,924. This is from the National Police Service. People who died, 3541. Serious injuries, 7236. Slight injuries, 5147. Then if you look into the specificities, so for example, now I pick up the pillar called fatal injuries. Depends if it's January to September, January to 50, 35 to 36. So if I'm just focusing on the pillar called fatal injuries, this is what we see. Between 2021 and 2022, but also just who is being injured. We look at the pedestrians, we look at the motorcyclists, the passengers, the pillion passengers, the drivers, the pedal cyclists, and these are the numbers. What we notice is that in 2021 and 2022, the figures for 2022 are higher, but cumulatively, pedestrians and motorcyclists are being the people that suffer the most in Kenya. This is statistics from the NTSA. Okay, so for example, you might want to change this situation, okay, as a young leader. And maybe you might want to say, okay, I don't want to see any border borders on pedestrian walkways in my ward or in my county, because border borders, pedestrians are getting hurt or hurting each other. the most. And so you might say, well, I'm going to demand stiffer penalties for road misuse. So if the pedestrian is doing the wrong thing, if the border is in the wrong place, is coming at you in the traffic, you might want to change that situation. Okay, but remember that this border thing, for somebody, it's the wearer, it's their job. That's how they feed their family. For the person on the pavement, that's how they walk to work. It's their transport as well. So there are many things, like I said, the economic, the social, the environmental, many things to think about. But you might take no borders on pedestrian walkways as one of your goals, for example. Okay, and then you might think about who are you going to target with this policy action that you're thinking about. Are you going therefore to talk about road constructors? Should they maybe do something different to the pathway so that the borders don't access it and hurt the pedestrians? Are we going to talk about pedestrians? Are you going to talk therefore to in your county, the transport, the committee that handles transport in your county? Or are we going to talk about the Ministry of Transport in our country? Who are you going to target? Okay. And then we are going to talk about the implementation. So of course, depending on the policymaker that you target, you might want to think about what they want, how you can get that message. Fabrice just challenged me, how do we get it? So if your leader is a young person, are they on TikTok? Are you going to get their attention best on TikTok, or is it going to be on Twitter? Are we going to tweet, or are we going to look at making a proper policy because maybe your policy actor is a technocrat? They look at technical stuff full of knowledge. So you have to think about those kind of things. How will you ensure that this policymaker gets the issue is getting, wanakushika, wanakuelewa? Yeah, make sure they can get your message. Okay, so understand the policymaker, set your goal, and then start to work on your message strategy. That's really, really important. So think about what information do you need to bring. How are you going to set your goal and the strategy for your message? Okay, now here we're talking about that message, whether you're going to do a tweet or you're going to do a flyer or whatever you're going to do, make sure that there's information. How many people are dying? How many people were dying last year? How can the numbers get better? How are the other countries looking at road safety? For example, Sweden, Norway, they have very, very safe roads. Switzerland, the worst roads the worst statistics are in the developing world, including our region. So look at the evidence, look at examples, then think about the format, and then now come up with your strategy. 3 very important things to think about when this hashtags. Okay. Is it a policy brief? Is it a white paper? Is it a poster? Is it a flyer? I like this one that I'm just putting here. It's from the House of Leather. I think you've met them somewhere along a road in the city, where they come at you in such a way that they're memorable. Think about the memorability of your message and who your audience is going to be. Okay, so in conclusion, policy making is useful for reconstructing problems. Okay, you need to think about the research, the statistics, the data. You need to think about your strategic communication. How are you going to do it? Is it over the weekend? Is it during elections? When are you going to do it? Is it at the fringes of a big event? But the most important thing to remember here is that you can participate in policy making and policy design. And here are some of the recommendations for you. Identify a problem, research it. You could think about joining a think tank. You can become a youth envoy, and there are very many opportunities. Yesterday, we talked about the numbers in our region, the youth bulge. So think about doing an envoy in the ESC, in IGAD, in Kenya, and then prepare and deliver your message. Okay, just some questions for you. What are you going to do, and who can you work with? And then some areas for you to think about. The climate change adaptation space is very, very wide open right now. And young leaders can do a lot here, whether it's improving the green in your city, the energy in your city. There's a lot of opportunities there. Think about the youth bulges. This is a really interesting bit because, like I said yesterday, and like Dr. Mbiti also just resonated today, it's not about thinking about now, it's about the next year and the next 5 years and the next 10 years. That's how governments work. That's how regions work. That's how countries work. So you have to think beyond now. Yes, act now, but think about the future as well. And if the region is very young, what are we going to do? Now we have a youth bulge. In future, we might have a problem with old people if the society doesn't have the structures in place to handle a big aging community. Because in fact, in 20 years, these young people will become old. What's going to happen? Okay, just some things for you to think about there. And thank you very much for your attention. I think I'm within my 10 minutes. Fabrice, thank you. And Tim, I'll hand back over to you. Thank you.
Wow, that has been wonderful, and thank you so much, Rosalind Omondi, for that brilliant presentation. You know, that has been within time and very, very informative, you know, and I think I took a lot of notes, and I'm really very inspired. And I can see so many as well of people have been. Could you share the slide? Yes. If I mean, the slide will be shared, and of both presentation. But then this moment, we have almost 15 good minutes for engagement. And this moment, I will welcome as well Dr. Violet. If you're there with us, I will ask I'll ask you to join us maybe in this conversation, so we'll have time for questions. So I asked for the question in the chat, but this I'll really open up now for you, the participant. And before we start, I was just wondering from you, Dr. Violet, as I mentioned again to Madam Rosalind, is there something that Kenya is doing to empower youth to participate in the budget process? You know, and that is for you. Are there some loopholes? Are there some kind of opportunities? And I know opportunities and challenges, that will be the next session, but I'm very curious to hear from you as a budget expert. You know, what are the avenues that you see? What are the windows that youth should be really aware about? I know you mentioned about participation. You know, I'll be curious if you could elaborate a little bit on that. And with that, after that.
All right.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yes, so let's get right into answering the question. There are legal frameworks that are in place to ensure that every citizen participates in the budget making process. There are various legal frameworks that are in place. For example, the County Government Act 2012, the Public Finance Management Act 2012, the Constitution of Kenya 2010, and you also find that there's even the Public Government Disposal Act. All of them are available. Now let's go to the counties. You find that even in some counties, they also have public participation frameworks on how the county should run. So you also find that they also have an act in place with regard to public participation. But now the thing is this, not enough mobilization has been conducted to tell youth that they should participate. For example, when you go to a public participation forum, you will find few youth, you will find business people, you will find women, you will find, all of them have come to advocate for what they want. For example, when you go to a public participation, you will see the ones who are making a lot of noise are business people, the ones who want tenders, okay? Because they want to get a tender so that they can construct the roads nearby. So they raise their concerns a lot, and you find that the government hears it. Women, they also come there and they also say that we want to also look at even health, or even with regard to reproductive, maternal, newborn health, and there are no family planning supplies. So you find that the government, when they advocate to the county government, they do so. But now, when now it comes to resource allocation, resource means budget allocation. You find that, and I challenge you, go to the Ministry of the Treasury, the National Treasury website. Go and download the budget for this financial year. Also go to your county website or your county assembly website. Go and download the budget, the annual budget for that year, for this year, and tell me how much budget has been allocated to the youth sector. You will find that youth gets just minimal, even less than 10% of the entire budget allocation. Why? Why is this the case? It is because they don't participate. They don't go to the public participation forums to share their concerns.
Wow, that's a very huge number. Less than 10% of the budget, they don't participate. And Rosalind, you've been telling us about how the participation in the policy is. Less than 10% in the budget. Is it something we should worry about? And, what do you think should be done? And before you answer, I just welcome you if you have a question and comment, if you want to jump in the conversation, raise your hand and we'll give you the opportunity to engage with the speakers. Yes, Rosalind.
Thank you, Fabrice. Less than 10% is not great, but it's a good place to start. I think what we've seen in our country and in our region is the resources follow the need. So if there's more interest, there will be more funds to go there. That's just my opinion. Of course, it's subject to discussion. But I think that what we can do as young people, and I liked what Harun said yesterday, it can be a flyer where you start. And flyer is not a lot of resources. It can be you in your group. It can be me and a few of us in a think tank saying, hey, this is the issue. This is how we're going to resolve it. I might just want to share something with you. Just from my experience, when some of the issues that the Institute handles and that I work in are very, very sensitive. So sometimes you have a solution or you have some insights that you want to give a certain policymaker, but it's very dicey discussion. It's a very sort of caged debate. So what you do is you create a document that is just for certain eyes. You call them closed documents. You might then call a closed forum. So the thing here is to think about what do I want to do and how must I do it? So if you see that the resources in your county are not going where you want them to be, use what you have and then build on that. But with the policy space, it sounds very technical at first and very distant, but I have found, especially working through an institution like mine in research and communication, that you get there. We get, for example, during COVID, we saw actually how important it is to do research and present statistics, and then see how that affects how everything is being done in your country live, like we could actually see that. So depending on the things which are emerging threats, there's usually more room in emerging threats, like now I just said climate change. If we look at that, there will be more resources for that for sure. But then other things might start to fall off. For example, accidents, because it's a recurrent problem. Yeah, I hope I answered some questions.
Well, yeah, of course you did. And I like what you say there about the ability to use what you have. And of course you started there. When you shared how you started what you have, your skills, personality, and started a policy brief. And thank you for being an inspiration. Sharon Odongo has a question for you. Sharon, could you turn your video on if you can? But Sharon, can you hear us? Hey, Sharon, we can't hear you. Okay, let's go to Grace Orao Kisumu. Grace?
Hi, I hope you can hear
have
me.
your video on, we'll appreciate. Yes, Grace.
Thank you so much. I think I love the presentation from the two speakers. That was really great. One on budget making processes and another on policy, but specifically on policy, you do realize that Kenya has got very beautiful policies addressing certain challenges, especially on women, on youth, economic, all of that aspect. But then it's one thing to formulate and develop these policies, but it's another to implement. And I think this is one of the challenges that Kenya is facing right now, because we have so many good policies, but some other countries, I guess, are benefiting more from them than us because of lack of implementation. What then would be your take, Dr. Rosalind, on this? And what could be done just to ensure that we don't just produce policies that we don't need right now in regards to if we don't have the resources to implement them? Because I believe that it's one thing to also develop a policy, but it's also another thing to allocate budgets and resources that should spear implementation. And I just wanted to some insights on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Grace, for your question. I just want to make a quick clarification. There's a slight difference between what a policy is and then what is an act and what is a law. So, like I said, a policy is a position, is a standpoint, is a place where you, for example, for the environment in Kenya, we say we do not want polythene bags because they create a problem with the ecosystem. Okay, so the policy statement there is no polythene bags, and then we did things like burning them and stuff like that. But that is because it is reinforcing a particular law in the environment. So there's a small difference between the policy and then, but it's a starting step to where you get into the acts and into the laws. So what I can say is, think about this policy making as a very, it's not as technical as sometimes it sounds. So Kenya has very many laws and acts which are great on paper, but it's the disconnect between that and the policy that creates a lot of problems. So let's understand the policy, the approach we're going to take, and then let's see that if the approach is not being implemented or is not being realized in the act or in the laws, then we can come up with another policy and say, hey, guys, this thing of polythene bags just doesn't work. We are starting to see them coming again. What can we do different so that we keep our environment safe? I hope that's helpful.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Grace, for the question. And I welcome anybody else who has a question to raise their hand. But as we're looking for other questions, the next session will be talking about the issues, the challenges. So I will go in advance in the future and maybe ask a question that would have been asked if this session was the second. Considering that the youth, the youth lack of participation in the budget process is a problem, do you see any policy challenge, any policy solution? Is it something that can be solved by, putting in place a policy, that will, coming up with some policy recommendation that will end up maybe with a policy that address this, or it has to be something organic?
I think I could start there. So the issue of youth engagement and youth being, it's a discussion that is ongoing. There are very many youth, but they're still on the shelf. And the youth feel like it's the time for us now. It's our time to do things now. But it's like we have to kind of wait, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? No. So this thing of engaging the youth is a discussion that can be had now. The young people can stand. What does that mean? Bring up the statistics, okay, like the ones we saw yesterday, where 75% are this. Look at your ward. How many youth are in your ward? How many are in your county? And what issues in your county or ward or country are affecting the youth directly? And then pick 1 or 2 and say, we, the youth of this county, we, the youth of Kenya, would like 1, 2, and 3, and this is what we propose. And then find a way to make yourself heard. So I challenge the youth to bring, let's do it. Let's not sit, oh, they are doing this. No, let's say, let's mobilize ourselves and let's act. One of my best examples is a climate activist, Thunberg, the Swedish girl. She's just like, I think, 19 now. And look how she was able to galvanize discussions around climate change. One girl mobilizing her school, then her community, then it's called the domino effect. But it starts with one step and then you move. So let's say, okay, we are not being involved. What can we do about that? And then let's just keep going.
Let's keep going. I'll consider that as the last word from Roselyne Omondi. Maybe Dr. Violet, what would be the last word as we end this session today?
Yes, so one thing that I'd like to let the viewers hear is that one thing that we should note is that advocacy is a process. And just because you've gone to the county government or the national government and raised your issue, doesn't mean that they have to act on it now. For example, when you look at the FGM advocacy started years back, but it's only the last few years that the county government, the national government through President Uhuru Kenyatta prioritized it, even had boards in place. So the thing is this, moving forward, get to know that advocacy is a process. 2, how do you deliver your message to the government, to the county government officials, to your? So the first thing that you need to do is identify the problem. What problem is ailing the youth in where you're coming from? Number 2, gather data. Because government don't respond if you don't have data. Data of the extent to which this particular problem is affecting the youth. So once you have the data in place, do a political economic analysis. What does political economic analysis mean? Now you have prepared the data, the messaging, and all that. So the thing that needs to happen is that identify the key players who are able to influence the government at the national level and the policy level. Who will be your champions? And once you do so, now deliver the message. Once you deliver the message, be following up with them to see the progress towards that. And by so doing, you will find that the government is doing that. And you will find that mostly the actors who are in the health sector, they are usually up to task to know what the national government is doing with regard to health and what the county government is doing with regard to health. But youth are not that proactive to know what the government is doing with regard to youth affairs, or even at the county level. And that is why your needs are not prioritized, because they think you are okay. You don't know when the government says that you are okay with these people, they don't have problem, they are okay. They will still continue giving budget allocation to the other ones who are crying for the needs to be prioritized. Thank you.
Yeah.
Over to you, Fabrice.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was the last word for this. And you mentioned advocacy. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that well elaborated conclusion. And you mentioned, how advocacy is a process, and you emphasize on the idea of gathering data, identifying the key players and influencers, but most importantly, how you deliver the message and following up. These are wisdom actually from you, Dr. Violet, and I hope the participant will take them with them. And I see Fred and Grace, the hands are still raised. We unfortunately don't have enough time now. We'll maintain that for the breakout session. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you all for having us, and you can now unfasten your seatbelt as we pass it over to Paris. Thank you all. Paris, the floor is yours for the...
Thank you very much. Thank you, team. Thank you, facilitators and the moderator. And I think this session sets the stage for the next session, because a key theme that has been emerging in the conversation is that saying there's lack of youth participation. And there are young people in this forum, and there are young people who are also doing amazing things. So I'm hoping that we can keep that at the back of our mind and take it into the breakout sessions when we get there. But to get us still on that path, I want to welcome Juliana to take us through the next session, where the speaker will be sharing her own experience around challenges that young leaders are facing in policy and budget making process, that maybe could answer why we are saying there's a lack of youth participation, or is there really a lack of youth participation? So Juliana, please take it from here. Are you around? Juliana, are you around? Okay, so Juliana is not there. And so let me take the honors to invite Salome Nthenya to share with us her experience working within the National Police sector in terms or in matters around policy and budget. Salome, please welcome.
Thank you very much, Paris, for the introduction. And also thank you to Dr. Violet and Rose for shedding more light and giving expert advice on policy and budget.